Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. If this is your first time, this is Elsie and
This is Tony. Yeah.
okay, today we're talking about the welfare state
Yeah.
in England specifically or the UK in general.
Yeah. Probably more because Scotland's got a separate system, although it does overlap.
Oh,
But yeah, the welfare state.
just generally, Tony thinks that the welfare state has made people lazy. So that's what we're going to talk about. The broken
Yeah.
nature of
The
England.
broken nature of sure. That's not a bad phrase actually, not a bad start. The welfare state actually, without thinking about how should you say, the nicknames people talk about, a nanny state where everything's done for them, all the rest of it, or
Yeah.
interfering in people's lives. Let's treat it with respect. Okay, it was a good idea when it started, and the idea was that people should be able to have care at whatever stage they were at. They were going to be educated for free. They were going to be looked after in hospital. They were going
Yeah.
to be given money to live when they were old. They were going to be given support so they weren't thrown out of their houses if
Yeah.
they lost their job and couldn't pay the rent, things like that. So all these were good motives, no doubt about it. But the society that that's happened in was a society where people had pride in working, funny enough, and not just in working in top flight city traders and lawyers and bankers, but pride in what they did. Pride in cleaning, pride in painting, pride in doing any kind of job, and pride in the fact that they were supporting their families. They were
Yeah.
doing this for their family, not a case of they're just living off the state. Now, living off the state effectively means you're living off everybody else, because where does the state get its money from?
Taxes.
Well, that's right. So who do they tax? They tax the people who are working and hand it out in chunks to people who are not. Now, that is okay in principle if you're helping people who, through no fault of their own,
Genuinely.
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And as far as education goes, absolutely. We should be willing to spend boatloads on that because we're helping our future as a country and helping the individual futures of all those kids.
Yeah.
But somewhere along the line, we've lost that, I say, the ethos, that sort of idea that what we should do is do an honest day's work for an honest day's pay type of thing. That our role models, our heroes now have shifted from being hard-working or honest people to being what? Social media influencers? City traders? You know, now nothing, don't get me wrong, there may be city traders watching this and so they've got a useful job to do as well. But it's not something that sort of everybody can do. Everybody
No.
has got to find something that they are able to do, willing to do, and we've lost our way, I think, like that.
Yeah.
Really have. And it's not been a benefit to people because with the welfare state, for example, how many children are growing up in houses without a father being involved? Because the state has effectively taken over what used to be the primary duty.
I
Oh.
never thought of it that
Yeah,
way.
the primary duty of a male parent was to provide a living for the others. Now, okay, that role model's changed as well, and women are working, economic contributors, fine, and doing a marvellous job sometimes of working and bringing up children as well, being the primary carers. But
Yeah.
when the government steps in, as I say, the government should step in when there's real cases of need. But when this comes to millions now of people who are effectively dependent on the government instead of being dependent on their husbands or their families or wherever they're dependent on the government, well, it's soul destroying because it takes away the huge edge of incentive. I mean, the benefit system, for example, nobody is rich just on benefits, of course not.
No.
But the point is, it's giving a basis. Nobody has to go particularly hungry on that either.
So there's no need to
Yeah,
to go
if you, I
hard
mean,
for
think of
yourself.
the law of nature, never mind the laws of England. When an animal's hungry, it has to eat. Now, if it's a grass-eating animal, it has to go through the effort from munching the grass.
Yeah.
And if it's an animal that hunts other animals, it's got to get off its backside, get out there, and find something to eat.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't do that, what happens to it?
It'll die. Really.
It'll starve and die. There's no welfare state to come along and say, "Oh, listen, I tell you what, you look as though you're a bit depressed today. I understand. Here's something for you to nibble on while we're waiting," and then come back the next day and the same thing. No way.
No.
Now, okay, that's tough. That's the law of the jungle or the law of nature. But by the same token, it's not altogether a stupid law either.
No.
Because without some real incentive, we just lie back.
Yeah.
We need an incentive. Just like for a lot of people, thank God, supporting their family, taking care for their family, is the difference between having the incentive to go to possibly a job which they don't like, but they do it for the sake of the love they have for that family.
Yeah.
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 And take that away, and then the person hasn't got the incentive. You think, well, okay, I'll leave it to somebody else. And that's what's happened, I think, over the last 3 generations, maybe, in this country.
Yeah.
That traditional ethos has been lost. People taking pride in supporting their families, not being wanting to be thought scroungers or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's not done good for the people that most needed the help, because it was supposed to be, if you like, emergency help, accident and emergency stuff. Yeah, that's great, and there's nothing wrong. We need accident and emergency, but nobody should be living in there.
Good point.
Nobody should be living there. That's true. Yeah, and it's funny because our society has crumbling, if you like, in that way, in every sense of the word. The demographic curve, how many the older people from this country and the younger ones, there aren't enough young British people coming up to replace the amount of British people who are dying.
No.
So, fair enough. The overall population figure may be up. Why? Because of migration. Now, let me say clearly, I have absolutely no problem. I don't blame anyone, whether they're a legal immigrant who, and I said legal, not illegal, whether they are legal and doing much needed work in the NHS, or whether they're illegal as well. Because how can you criticize somebody who is willing to risk their lives to try and get a better standard of living? That's what they're doing it for.
Yeah.
And no, you can't blame them, but I do blame our system that allows for, how should you say, for these jobs, if you like, which only people, or mainly people from abroad, are willing to do. We've got the situation here in this country that we have enough people, but the people who could and should be studying to do the high-level jobs, if you like, the cerebral ones, like scientists or doctors and professions like that, either they lack the willingness to apply themselves to study, they lack the incentive, whatever. But that's lacking, definitely. It's not that there's no people. It's not that they're all haven't got brains. They've all been fed state-sponsored school milk and bloody multivitamins from an early age in this country. It's true.
Yeah.
What's happened to them? What's happened? How can't they study enough? If doctors, for example, can come from all over the world, God bless them, how come there's no more people not studying to be doctors here?
I mean, it's quite surprising to me what the welfare state in this country has turned into. I mean, the West in general, because I do remember, or not remember because I'm not that old, but have read about, so the previous president of Ghana, Kwame Nkrumah, he was like in that time kind of running a welfare state, obviously because we were coming out of a coup and there were a lot of poor people. But then Kufuor came, like that was the president after, and then we had to get an IMF loan because we were going into HIPIC. So we got an IMF.
You're going into what?
We're highly indebted poor country, HIPC, HIPIC. But then, so the the conditions of the loan was to like move away from being a welfare state. So then we were running an you call it NHS, but then we would call it NHIS. So the NHIS, which would normally take care of your like all your hospital bills, now would not. Like you would have to pay for part of it. And well, a lot of people suffered, but then obviously it just meant that you had to work harder. And then school was free, like through and through. Then the conditions of this loan was in such a way that you had to pay for part of it. Like you don't pay for the tuition, but maybe you buy textbooks and stuff like that.
Right.
So considering that the West made sure that the South moved away from the welfare state and said, oh, you people cannot just sit down and get free stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Because we are giving you money and you need to use it to develop your economy.
Sure.
And then we did that. And then like now, I mean, it never went away because we do not have like a thoroughly free NHS.
Yeah.
But then the West has kind of managed to provide a free, like just free things for everyone, which is kind of surprising because they were preaching that free things are not good for the economy, which you can see yourself now, what like the effects of just making sure that people can eat even when they don't work. Yeah. So what do you think? What do you think would be the solution to? Because obviously, you cannot totally cut it out. Like say you won't help even if people are poor, unless you think that. But also, like there needs to be a balance.
Yeah.
Like how would you know to help someone or to say, oh hey, you need to get a job? Like, where do you find the balance?
Okay. Well, I think I'll tell you a little story with Mother Teresa, which I think sums it up. I think I have told you before, but I haven't said this on this channel. And somebody visited Mother Teresa, and while she was there, she noticed a little girl shuffling along the floor. As far as I remember, the girl had lost her legs in whether it was gangrene or accident or whatever, I don't know. But she was shuffling along the floor in a little trolley, and she was sweeping the floor with a little hand brush. And the person said to Mother Teresa, do you think this is fair? This little handicapped child, and she's sweeping the floor. And Mother Teresa said, have you seen her face? And she looked at her, the girl was beaming, because she was making a contribution. She wasn't just dead weight being kept as a charity case. She was making a contribution to the community. She couldn't carry the biggest loads like some of them. She couldn't do this, but she was doing what she could, and she was proud that she could do that. Now, that as a general statement, if you were applying that attitude towards all the people who are struggling with things, I think that would be lovely. We're not expecting you to do things beyond your strength, but we are expecting you to do what you can. And that's not taken. It's where we've got this sort of the state things. Okay, if you tick the boxes, that's okay. You're sick, you're not sick, fine. And sometimes there's these bits in between. You have to sort of literally do what you can. So you're putting something back. Now, as to the workings out of that, that would be more than outside the scope of this talk, I think. I think, nonetheless, if that was adopted as a principle, of course we'd find the ways.
Yes.
Of course we'd find the ways. We're not going to find the ways if we don't think it's worthwhile, if we're not going to adopt the principle. But if we adopt the principle, then sure we'll find a way, And that goes for all the kinds of things, the negative things in our society. Once we adopted a principle, no, we're not going to put up with this nonsense anymore. Wow, then things can change. But as long as there's not that groundswell, then no. The field is left to the others, in the sense, to propose as much stupidity as they want, and who really challenges them, So there we go.
And I think my little take from from me asking you, what do you think the solution would be? And just drawing from your little Mother Teresa story,
Yeah.
I think what it is, we've made people too comfortable with doing nothing.
Mm.
Because I think earlier when you were talking about how people would take pride in doing whatever they were, like whatever it is,
Right.
it's like if you were in a house where your parents took pride in your academics
Yeah.
and your siblings were doing well, then it's always fighting for, yeah, you can't just sit down and not study.
Yeah.
But if you were in a home where your parents just didn't care,
Yeah.
then you,
Sure.
well, whether you got 30%
Yeah,
or
it's not part of their
So
reality. It's not part of
like,
yours.
it's like if we were in a society where we properly looked down on people just sitting down and doing nothing, then no matter who you are, you will do your little contribution.
Yeah. No, there we go.
To earn what you eat, I suppose.
Yeah.
I feel like where we are at as a society at the moment is, yeah, just it's okay. I feel like maybe some years back, if someone asked you, oh, what do you do, and you just said, oh, I live off the government,
Yeah.
it's like, what? You know, whereas now
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, it's just normal, you
That's
know.
right.
It's just I think we probably need to do better.
But it's really sad when you said it hurts people really to get out of the habit of having to work to make the contribution, whether to their family, to the government, whatever. Rather, like, as I say, wheelchairs are fantastic things for someone who's got hurt legs and they can't walk. Great, they have a wheelchair to take them about until they recover. But keep them in that chair beyond recovery point, and then they'll
be
never
in
get
there
out.
forever.
They lose their use to their legs. It's not even that they're being bad or lazy or whatever. They're just, I'm sorry, I can't do it. I've tried. And that's what's happened to people here.
Yeah, that is really, I mean, there's a good comparison or a good metaphor for that. Yeah.
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 It's and you're not doing that person in the wheelchair any favors by pushing him up, poor thing, just pushing him around while the leg is healing. Sure, push him around, but then comes a time when you've got to say, no, brother, sister, or whatever, you've got to be willing to get out of that chair. I know.
I mean, I'm laughing because I just remember the lady who always carries her son on the street when they're going to school, and you're like, oh, can you let your son walk, please? Because then if you carry him all the time, then if, like, when
good
you're
luck
tired,
when he goes to high school.
I mean, I think this would be a great point to end the program.
Yeah.
If you've watched to this point, we're hoping that you're enjoying the program or you have enjoyed this talk.
Yeah.
So kindly like, comment, subscribe,
And share.
and until next time, it's bye for now.
Bye.
If you like this video, kindly like, comment, and subscribe. You can also find us on other social media platforms, on Twitter at Talk with Tony and on Instagram at talkwithtony.live. Don't forget, live, laugh, and most importantly, love. Watch out for the next video. It's bye for now.